Deputy Governor, Mr. David Archer Jr., Financial Secretary, Mr. Glenn Roy Forbes, President of HLSCC, Ms. Judith Vanterpool, and Mr. Reginald Graham, Consultant Coordinator of the Training Unit of CDB. This is the official opening of the CDB Training in Public Policy Analysis and Management and Project Cycle Management. I'm Michelle Donovan Stevens, Director of the Department of Human Resources for the Public Service. As a backdrop, a very brief backdrop, CDB has been conducting training in public policy analysis and procurement for almost 40 years, if I'm correct, Mr. Graham. And this training has been delivered across the Caribbean region. They have established this program, this particular program, in a really unique way. It's a bespoke approach. So as you're familiar, there was the online modules, and we had a country mission visit, and now we're here at the face-to-face training. This is a 4-week training in which we are expecting the capacity in these particular disciplines to be increased. There is a saying that when people show you who they are, believe them. And I believe as a public service and as a territory, CDB has demonstrated their commitment to the economic sustainability and the growth of Caribbean regions. So we thank you. I trust that this training will prove beneficial to us, specifically because of where we are as a country. Going through public service transformation, which I'm certain our Deputy Governor will speak to, and as we are continuing to restore our nation. So I will not be before you much longer, but I just encourage you all to take full advantage of this opportunity. I welcome you. I thank you for your participation, colleagues, and I will now turn it over to Mr. David Archer, our Deputy Governor. Please welcome him.
Thank you, Director. Good morning, everyone. Financial Secretary, President of the College, Reginald, Claire, Juanita, our esteemed public officers. Good morning. How are you doing? Good. It's good to be here. Naturally, we are also in the middle of Public Service Week, and that's why I continue to wear my Government of the Virgin Islands jacket, because it's a good space and a good time to be a public officer. But I want to just briefly say something about the training. You'll go through and you will learn and you'll be great and you have all of this knowledge. But what do we do with it? We are actually, based on a bad event, as you might want to call it, some people have done that, we're on the right side of change. We're on the right side of making a difference. I mentioned some names yesterday at the opening ceremony. We talked about Noy Lloyd and Mr. Fonseca and Patsy Lake and Lorna Smiths and so forth. And they have created a path of history that we look back on. Most of the pictures are in black and white. But guess what's going to happen? 20 years from now, 50 years from now, those pictures will be of you. So the question I'll ask of you, once you go through this training, once you learn how to make change through policy, once you learn how to engage the public in policies, once you have policy which is based on data and supported by data, what's next? And the space that you must be in is why you're actually doing this. And that's about making the Virgin Islands a better place. That's about creating your own path in history, not for yourself. Probably not for your sons or your daughters, but for generations and generations to come. I want to be on the right side of history, and I believe this training, supported by CDB, the Government of the Virgin Islands, the College HLSCC, is on the right side of history. And I want to commend you for being here, but I want to challenge you to do more than just learn. I want to challenge you to create a path towards greatness for the future of the Virgin Islands. We're in a mode of transformation. To transform, we must have the right policies, guided by data, incorporating the entire Virgin Islands and their thoughts. We must have the right projects. Projects, of course, which are just not from the sky. Projects which are led by policies and part of overall objectives. So you're in the right space to make the right changes. I want to thank you very much for having me, Director, and for being here. You have my support in everything that we do regarding the public service and also transformation. But remember, those pictures, 20 years from now, 50 years from now, will be you. And we want to say that we have done our best to make the BVI, the Virgin Islands, better, and we were actually on the right side of change. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Governor. Mr. Glenroy Forbes.
It is my pleasure to welcome you to the continuation of training facilitated by the Caribbean Development Bank in collaboration with the government of the Virgin Islands and the College of the HLS CC, well represented by the new president of the college. It's all a collaboration in this particular training program, which is public policy analysis and management and project cycle management that started in 2017. I extend a warm welcome to the facilitators of this and other modules during the coming weeks, as well as to you, the participants. The Caribbean Development Bank has a long history of collaboration with the government of the Virgin Islands. And to be more specific, the public service, not just in infrastructural development, but also in capacity building. And I just want to pause for a moment and say how important it is in terms of capacity building. I can reflect on what has happened to us following the impact of the storms in 2017. I commented sometime earlier and said that we did a fairly good job during the preparation period when we were preparing for the disaster. Again, we did a good job during the impact of the storm. But the jury is still out as to how well we have been coping with the recovery. And I am saying that what has hampered our recovery, some persons might say it's a matter of financial resources, but with 2020 hindsight, I can unequivocally state that it is a lack of capacity within the country to implement the various programs and projects that we have to implement in order to recover. Right? So capacity building is so important to us here in the BVI. They have worked at CDB, have worked closely with the territory through sponsorships and performed numerous training like this locally and regionally that has enhanced the level of services offered and the execution of projects. As new practices are introduced in the various disciplines and the cadre of employees evolve in the public service, it is necessary for such training to be reintroduced. The objective of this series of workshops are to equip officers with the necessary tools in support of institutional reform needed to enable more effective development of policy, programs, and projects. The territory is in its critical stage of the recovery process, where projects are being developed, advanced, and consideration and implementation by various agencies. We have all witnessed or have heard of the consequences of a poorly conceived and executed projects, and haven't we heard about those? At the Ministry of Finance, we have felt the brunt of what I call projects that were just ideas, and they didn't advance beyond the idea. And we have had the consequences of those projects. I mean, it's cost overrun, it's delays, it's all sorts of things. So it's so important for us to know how to plan and how to plan properly. So we cannot overemphasize the importance of this particular training and training like this that we are doing today. Such programs and projects over the years have cost the government millions of dollars, and in some instances may not have fully met the policy objectives. Therefore, it is important that the public officers be exposed to these and other disciplines to aid them in the execution of their duties. I encourage participants to pay keen attention to what is being presented and digest the new techniques communicated. And return to your various offices, share these practices with your colleagues, but most importantly, introduce them in the development of new policies and project administration. I want to say to you that a good indication as to whether or not any learning has taken place is a notable change in behavior. So when you return to your respective offices, if your behavior doesn't change, that means you would not have learned anything in these particular sessions or in the entire program. So what I know, the Deputy Governor, the President of the College, and the main facilitators of this program, and myself expect that there will be a change in your behavior. You will consider all the factors that go into preparing a project and make sure those factors are present. They've been properly analyzed before you advise your minister or your permanent secretary or whoever your supervisor that this particular project can go forward. I want to say I look forward to seeing great things coming from this group. I don't want to be up in the Ministry of Finance and scratching my head and say, well, where did this one come from? I should have a pretty good idea as to where it came from. All right, so all the best to you, and do have a most productive and enjoyable session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Forbes. Madam President, congratulate Ms. Vanterpool on her new appointment, please.
As a trainer myself, Mr. Graham, each time I stand before a group of participants, I pray and I hope that what I bring forth will be received. And not only will it be received, but it will be implemented. Too often, we sit in workshops and we have our trainers who are so able, and they come and they present information to us, they present knowledge to us. But we go back to our offices, and as the Deputy Governor has asked, and also the Financial Secretary, we behave in the same way. I put it to you that the whole country is going through a period of change. And you here today represent those icons that must change the public service. I see some of my faculty here, my staff. So I want you to know, staff, that if you are sitting here today, you are on college time, and as such, Madam President, new president, expects some returns from you on this investment. And for that, you're supposed to clap. As president of the H. Lavity Stoll Community College, I extend a warm welcome to you all today from the college family, not just from the president. Like the rest of the territory, the college too is being restored. I'm so happy that you could find a room here at the Marine Center that has air conditioning. We are working as best we can to restore AC throughout the entire college. Actually, I was very nervous when I knew that your time was coming up and we couldn't have a place ready for you. But God is good. We are glad that you have chosen us for the venue, and we will certainly do our best to make you feeling welcome. If there is ever a time that the territory needs training, it is at this point. Homes are being rebuilt. That's a physical structure. The physical infrastructure of the land is being restored. a renewal of minds of our people is definitely paramount to change, and important change, I dare say. I spoke with, Maui speaking, I spoke with several persons over the last week, and it was remarkable to hear some people say, Mrs. V, we are hearing so much about the roads are not good, the roofs are not on, but there is so little talk about how people feel in their minds. And I said, Another person said, maybe the college should bring in one of those nonprofit groups to interview people to learn of how people are thinking now after the storm, in the heat of the hurricane season. For me, every time I hear wind blow, I'm scared. I don't know about you, but my house is still boarded up. I'm still on the plywood. And I was fussing, that I couldn't get it done. But now, for Christmas, after the hurricanes, I feel so safe in there right now, I don't have to rush. I'm a new president at the college, but not new to the establishment. I've been here with the college since its inception, so I've seen it gone through the ups and the downs, the flats and the high levels. But Hurricane Irma did do some thumbs on us, and we are trying to restore ourselves physically, but I'm always mindful of the minds. Today you are here for a mind change. A mind change. I asked my cabinet a few weeks ago to stop thinking, I coined these, Mr. Graham, to stop thinking horizontally, that's flat. If we remain thinking flat after this training, we have wasted our time. Rise above the flat thinking, what your office is like now. Who did this and who isn't doing that, and what the worst one, what those people at the top are not doing. Ask yourself the question, what am I doing? So why am I here today? As Benjamin Franklin said, tell me and I forget. Teach me and I remember. Involve me and I learn. The FS said, Mr. Forbes, if you have not learned anything, it means that your behavior has not changed. So I said to you, here are a few benefits that you should take away. I like to deal with the mind. If your mindset has not changed, if it's not open to change, then you shouldn't be here. So I said to the participants, your participation enhances your reputation and profile, as well as that of the public sector and statutory bodies that you are representing. Enhances the reputation and profile. It improves employee knowledge, which drives employee and business performance. It leads to open minds, assists in promoting and establishing performance levels that are focused on meeting best practice and high standards. We are grateful to the CDB for extending its support to train all levels of the public sector. I say all levels because I believe in diversity, and we have it here today, but I also believe in inclusion, which CDB shows and is proving by training across dimensions. Inclusion is strength. It brings that cohesive, well-structured workforce that we need in the territory. The fact that skill sets, implementation plans, and evaluations built into the modules, in my opinion, will make a difference. I commend the organizer for developing a committee that offers oversight of the training event. However, as I reflect on the process of implementation, which I know, I will humbly suggest that the committee also be charged with the responsibility of seeing that the participants bring added values to their organizations. To the participants, I advise you to make well of this training opportunity and be ready to add to the restoration of the territory of the Virgin Islands. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam President. You have brilliant minds in the room, so I know they are charged and ready to go with the new skills or enhanced skills that they'll develop. Before I call Mr. Graham forward, I missed recognizing our master trainers. Our master trainers, Ms. Claire Fisher from the UK, and also Ms. Juanita Thornton Paulette. So I welcome you both. Mr. Graham.
It's not my first time here in the BVI, so you can see that I'm very familiar with the BVI. I came before the hurricanes and also after the hurricanes, so I experienced everything that you experienced, but obviously just visually, okay? Not in terms of what you experience, you know, personally or within the government context. So I have a lot of sympathy with where you have come from and where you are today. That's the first thing I'd like to say. Deputy Governor, Honourable David Archer, Financial Secretary, Mr. Glenroy Forbes, Director of Human Resources, Michelle Donovan-Stevens, President of the College, Ms. Judith Vanderpolt, Permanent Secretaries, Deputy Permanent Secretaries, Directors, Section Heads, public servants, welcome, members of the media. On behalf of the Caribbean Development Bank, it's my pleasure to welcome you all here today to this joint opening event with the government of the BVI, to make sure that, as has been said, that we can start the process of making sure that you all have the skills to deal with the priorities of the government in respect of policies and in respect to projects. I also wish to say my gratitude and thanks to the staff of the Director of Ministry Human Resources, Ministry of Finance staff also, and also the Deputy Governor's Office, and especially also the college that stepped in to help us with the facilities in the venue. I mean, that is exceptional, because one of the things that we were concerned about when I came originally was where was the training going to be held. So thank you very much, college, and also college staff for stepping in to provide this facility. Just going back a little bit in terms of where the Caribbean Development Bank fits into this training process. So the Caribbean Development Bank has been working, as you know, for the last 40-odd years, doing capacity building and training right across the region. And in the context of the BVI, we have worked very closely with the government of the BVI for a very, very long time and come together on particular areas of interest, such as this particular training program. But obviously, after the devastating impact of the 2017 hurricanes, we're only too aware of the catastrophic effects that it obviously have had on the BVI. And 12 months later, we are also seeing still some of the devastating effects here. So CDB has provided support to the BVI government immediately after the hurricanes, as many of you might already know, in terms of your immediate plans and your future plans. And we're continuing to do that. So this is an additional support that we're now providing as part of this training program to make sure that the skills are in place to deal with the reconstruction and development plans that you have for going forward. And also CDB recognizes that it's at times like these when we all need to come together. As you are aware, the whole of the Caribbean are suffering from similar catastrophic events. We have the same situation in Dominica, we had similar situations in Anguilla, and some of the other Caribbean islands. Many of them have shared their experiences with us. I was recently in the Cayman Islands where they were talking about their experiences of Hurricane Ivan and how they had to rebuild over that period. So there's a lot of regional experiences that we can share with one another, and this is what this program is also trying to do. So you'll hear a lot of the trainers talk about some of the other activities and some of the other challenges that the other governments have in the other countries, where they can obviously share some of those lessons learned with you as part of the training. So when it comes to this particular program, CDB introduced this training program in 2016. It's a program that is for 19 borrowing member countries of the Caribbean Development Bank, of course including the BVI. The 2030 Sustainable Development Goals is a vision which requires stronger institutions. It also requires the technical capacity to manage and implement transformative and sustainable projects and programs. This new vision, we are happy to say, we see also reflected in the government's program. Likewise, in the Deputy Governor's Public Sector Transformation Initiative, which is currently being enacted here, that corresponded with this week being the Public Service Week, and many of the public servants have received awards for their long service, which we congratulate many of them on. But the theme that we see and that we like and that we definitely support is this: a stronger, more resilient and more effective public service. How can we achieve that? These are the questions that you need to ask yourselves as you're going through this training process. But as I say, during the pre-training mission that we had here back in May 2018, there was wide consultations with the stakeholders. We heard what you had to say to us about some of your challenges. We also heard what you had to say to us about some of the issues that you had in your day-to-day work. And we have informed the trainers about many of those things. So you'll hear that they'll talk about some of the issues that you have already identified in terms of the context of this training, making sure that we can at least try to deal with some of them as part of the training and capacity development process. Many of you have already started those online courses that we recommended, and those online courses you'll see echoed in some respects in the actually face-to-face training activities themselves. The training firms have been selected based on their international and also regional expertise. So we have 2 training firms that will be training over the next 4 weeks here. We start off with a company called Dodds, training from the UK, represented here by Claire Fisher and Juanita. And also following on, there will be another company coming with their own trainers called CIDT, and they are from the UK also, Centre for International Development and Training from the University of Wolverhampton. And they'll focus a little bit more on the project cycle component of the program. And they have already trained in 11 other countries, so they have a full understanding of the complexities and the uniqueness that we have here in the Caribbean. So what I would also like to conclude by saying is that I know and I hope that the sessions are very active. This is an open space. We expect to have wide consultations and discussions. Please be open with your frankness, because this is one way that we actually learn, and make sure that we come away addressing some of the things that you are concerned about, so that we can actually discuss those within a collaborative way to go forward. I want to end on one note, because we started the training activities yesterday, and one of the things that struck me that kept on coming out, and I think it'll be echoed across the training for this week and also going forward, was the emphasis should be on coming here to be able to learn, to explore, to create, to decide, and then go back and deliver. So that's the last thing that I want to say to you today, based on everything else that has been said, in terms of making sure that you can actually learn and acquire the skills to go back and to deliver that transformation public service that the Deputy Governor talked about earlier this morning. Thank you very much.